Second.
All right, motion to approve in a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, no nays. Let's move to item C, approval of the minutes from the July meetings. Of course, vote is required. Hope that you both commissioners have opportunity to look at the minutes. If there is nothing to be changed or any questions, I ask for a motion to approve the work session meeting minutes held July 8th, 2026, and executive session meeting minutes held on July 8th.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
All right, the motion, we have a second.
Second.
All right, we have the motion and a second. All right, all that's in favor say aye.
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 All right, no nays. We move to new business. Item A, Resident Council, Ms. Maisha Housley. Evening.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Good evening. Before we get started, let's just take a minute for ourselves. Take a slow, deep breath in and gently let it out. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, let go of anything from today that's weighing on your mind. This is your time to be present, to connect, and to focus on our community. Let's take a brief moment of quiet reflection. Think about the positive impact we can make when we come together, listen to one another, and work towards shared goals. Every idea, every voice, and every act of kindness helps strengthen our community. Thank you for taking the time to be here tonight. Your presence and participation matter, and I'm looking forward to a productive meeting together. Everybody good? We good.
Very good. You ain't want to keep going?
All right. We continue to promote resident engagement. I'm sorry, let's back up. My name is Maisha Housley. I'm the president of the Resident Council. Tonight we have two of my board members are here, Miss Kathy Flowers and Miss Audrey High.
Welcome.
You're so welcome.
All right. I'm glad y'all are here.
We continue to promote resident engagement through educational opportunities, leadership development, and community activities. We recently met to discuss upcoming events planned for the remainder of the year and continue to plan for resident programs and initiatives. In addition, one of our residents, Jobs Plus community coach, Miss Drummond, she just recently hosted a couponing class to provide residents with practical strategies to save money on everyday household expenses. The Resident Council is preparing for several upcoming activities. On Friday, it will be our second annual Come Together Day, and that is with Resident Council and Jobs Plus. It begins at 10 a.m. and it will be in McIntyre Court. It's a community celebration designed to bring residents together through fellowship, family-friendly activities, and community engagement. On August 5th, we have our Resident Council work session. It will be at 5:15 this month. On the 20th will be our monthly board meeting. That will also be the empowerment and also our Good Neighbor Pantry Day. On the 25th through 27th, we will be in Stone Mountain for the Garber Resident Leadership Development Conference. We remain committed to empowering residents, encouraging active participation, and building a stronger, more connected Brunswick Housing Authority community. Any questions?
What are the hours for the pantry?
4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
And that's, what day is that?
The third Thursday every month.
One Thursday?
Third Thursday every month.
When is the guard conference again?
It will be the 25th to 27th.
August.
Yes, sir.
Have we identified who all's going?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
How many is?
5 total.
Is that how many we normally see?
In recent years, there were more residents to go, but that would be the only time you would see them. So,
These are the active.
yes. So last year we started doing just leadership, and then we would take an additional resident with us. So this year we did the same thing. Any more questions? Okay.
Me? No, I'm sorry, none for you, Commissioner Clemens?
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Austin. We move to item B now. Our financials from Ms. Barbara Newman. Welcome, Ms. Newman.
I'm going to share my screen.
Can we have you, can you put the volume up a little bit for me?
Is this better?
Yes, that's a lot better.
Okay. Okay, so we're looking at our, I want to put a little disclaimer here on these reports because 6/30 is our fiscal year end and we're in the process of closing the books and doing reconciliations, accruals, and so once we get our final audit for June 30th, these numbers will look a little bit different because we're going to be adjusting for anything that we're accruing back to our fiscal year. But starting out with AMP1, we had an expectation, as of our budget, to get about 1.539 million in revenue, and we were very close to that number. The actual is 1.526, and on our expenses, we expected to spend about 1.5, but so far we're showing 1.2. And that is really, if we're looking at all of our expenses, they're all going to be a lot lower than expected because we haven't closed the books formally yet. And so with AMP1, we're looking at a potential net income of 289,000, and this amount is going into our reserves for the year. For AMP2, we have 1.599 in revenues and 1 million in expenses, and we're showing about 533,000 in net income. And then for our last public housing property, we have 1.2 million in revenues and 938,000 in expenses, which leads us to 264,000 in net income. And that is for our 3 public housing properties. We have, again, HUD funds us on a calendar year basis. And so for our 2026 operating subsidy, we have been given a proration of about 91% so far. Usually during the year, HUD will give us different prorations, and then after the year, they come up with the final funding. And so we always see those numbers skewed a little bit when we get to December of the calendar year. Any questions on public housing? Okay, let's move to our Housing Choice Voucher Program. This program, again, has 2 streams of funding. We get administrative fees for operating the program, and then the Housing Choice Voucher, housing assistance or utility assistance payments that we pay landlord and tenants is another stream of funding. Our HAP stream of funding is considered restricted, and so if we, in any given calendar year, spend less than we receive, HUD will always, around the mid-year of the next year, recapture some of our funding. It doesn't mean that, they're taking money away from us. It's just saying they don't want us to keep so much cash on hand. And so they take that back and put that in our reserves. For our operating side of the HCDP program, we received 730,000 and administrative fees. These fees are linked directly to how many vouchers that we lease up. We get a little bit of a higher rate for the first 600 units we lease up every month, and then a lower rate for the remaining units. That's for every housing authority. On the operating side, we spent about $990,000, which is showing a net loss of $251,000. At the end of the year, once we do all of the allocations, we're going to adjust that. If we were truly asset managed, HUD has two different types of fees that we can charge the operating side of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And it's limited to $12 per unit leased or 20% of the administrative fee received. That's the cap. And so we're going to try to, hold on to that cap while we also build some reserve for this program. Because looking on both our housing assistance payment and operating side of the Housing Choice Voucher Program, our expenses are far more than the revenues that we're getting in. So on our housing assistance payments, we received $6.8 million in funding, and we actually spent $7.4. The $614,000 is actually a reflection, of for the year so far, we will be considered in shortfall because we're not getting enough cap to cover what we're paying landlords. We do have a request in for HUD-held reserves. We put that in before the month of July. Our financial analyst had promised that because HUD had not obligated funding for July yet, they would release it after the fact. I did follow up with her again today to see where we are, because technically the $614,000 we should be getting out of our reserves so that this program is not showing a negative. And we did borrow some funds from our GAHAP fund to cover our June HAP expenses, about $550,000. But our shortfall is actually a little bit higher than that. Once those funds come in, we should see 100% of what we receive versus what we spent in the program. Any questions on Housing Choice vouchers?
I guess I'm a little bit fuzzy about, we're short, but we're going to be made whole once everything settles, and we borrowed some money from where?
From GAHAP. From our GAHAP fund, our NHC fund actually, which we call GAHAP. So our non-federal source of funding that we had, we borrowed some money to cover our June HAP payments to the landlords. Because in June, HUD did a recapture. And what they do is, they go in and based on what they show as having, we're holding, anytime they give us cash, depending on what we pay out, we may have a deficit or an overage. So based on their calculations, we were holding a lot of cash, right? But that wasn't the real case, because 2 years ago, we were supposed to be in shortfall. That application apparently never went all the way through. And so we never received any funding for that shortage. This is what we're seeing now. And we do have reserves, and so we have requested reserves with the support that we need to show that we're really spending more than what we got in cash. And so by design of the program under the ACC agreement, we will receive that funding from our reserve to cover the shortfall.
So once it's returned, the money will be returned back to GAHAP?
Exactly, yes. Any other questions?
I got a question.
Okay.
It's going to probably be on the. We're going to talk about this in another session.
Okay. All right, sounds good. I will move over to the other programs and then come back to the COCC. So locally owned, we show 485,000 in revenue and 306,000 in expense, with a net income of 178,000. If we look at our expenses against our budget, there was a lot of we made a lot of maintenance expenses during this fiscal year. So from July 25 through June 26, on this property, which is why our expenses are a lot higher than we budgeted for. That's locally owned. Any questions? Okay, so we'll move on to Coastal Phoenix. We had 38,000 in revenue. This is mainly interest of cash in our account, and about $60,000 in expenses, with a net loss of 22,000. Again, the loss is covered by our reserves, and so once we get our audit report, we're going to see our balance sheet and income statements to see what our equity really is in this program. This program has cash in reserves to cover this shortage. For GA-HAP, we separated this for this fund to really show what we spent on our resident initiatives during the year. And then this fund here, the NHC fund, is holding all of the payments that we're getting from our joint venture with NHC. And so GA-HAP, again, this is all really interest earned on our cash as revenue. And then we spend 477,000 mainly on resident initiatives that we have. And on NHC, we received 1.9 million. And then we have expenses of 43,000, so showing a net income of 1.8 million. Any questions?
On the Coastal Phoenix drawdown from the reserves, what was our net drawdown against reserves last year, and where have those reserves come from?
Yep. So all our reserves in Coastal Phoenix come from cash that we have from, I believe we have a development, we were engaged in a development where we received some developer fees in the past, and so that's what built up the equity in that program. If you give me a minute here, I will look up how much we took out of reserves in the previous year.
So that it is not from excess operating revenue from the previous year or previous couple of years. It's from a developer fee.
It's from year to date, right? So inception to date, whenever we formed this Coastal Phoenix instrumentality, right? All of the revenues that have come in with any developer deals that we've been engaged in, any purchases that we've made or sales that we've made, pretty much sit in this fund here. On the operating side, this is just what we are charging. Again, on our expenses, it's really just maintenance on all the properties and land that we own, utilities that we pay. That is what makes up the bulk of our operating expenses here. Again, if we're not doing any development deals and we don't have any developer fees scheduled, there's not any other source of income that will come in here apart from the interest that we have on our cash.
I guess I'm trying to figure out if we have a constantly leaking ship or if
Exactly.
okay.
That's a great question, which is also why we do not charge items to any program, right? In essence, any program here, especially when we were developing the budget for 27, we were very specific about what is being charged to each program. We really looked at the revenue sources, right? If a program doesn't have, for example, the HCV operating program is a big example that in the past, we have been charging an allocation, X amount, 20, 30% of central office costs going into against our revenues, but we're not getting enough revenues. And so, again, we drained this fund, right, over the years. And that's what is shown here. What we can do at the end of this year is correct, we're going to right size this. And so, if we make sure that only 20% of this revenue is going towards the expenses that we charge to the central office, then the expenses here will decrease so that we can build up a reserve for the program. I mean, it's, we're operating the program. In any program, we don't want to have a deficit. If we have about 3 to 4 months, which is the HUD recommended reserve level, 3 to 4 months of reserve on hand for any of our programs, it makes, it supports the programs in the event that we don't have any revenues coming in. And so going forward, that's the goal is that we build the reserves in all of our programs. Of course, with the exception of our housing assistance payment, because that, whatever we pay a landlord, HUD will pay us back for. As long as, we have a lot of vouchers that we're giving out. So hopefully going forward, we will, the goal will be at least to break even. If any funding source does not have revenue coming in, we shouldn't be charging expenses above, the revenue. Although, yeah, we're working, especially with our development arm. We have to really be conscious of what we're charging. Initially, there were personnel costs, charged directly to that fund. We're really not doing development work, and so we cannot justify, charging any personnel related costs to that fund. So when we limit it to the revenues that come in, we would be in a better place, just operationally, at least break even and try not to go in the red, because you don't have enough money to support the expenses that we're being charged to it. And we can control those expenses. So I'm gonna look right here and see how much we did, what last year looked like. Really quickly.
Oh, she's doing that. Who just came in?
Dr. Johnson.
Okay, welcome, Commissioner Johnson.
Good evening, everyone.
You feeling better?
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Excellent, excellent.
Georgia app been around 25 years.
I think the initial investment was $5,000 for each PHA, either 2,000 or 5,000.
How many is in there?
10. 9 in us.
Say that again.
9 us.
That's the meeting that go to in Atlanta.
It's
Who are the other ones?
Hinesville, Americus, Bibb County, Atlanta, Taylor, Marietta, Augusta, Athens,
You ready, Ms. Newman? If
System.
you are. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here. The system is just a little slow. But so last year we had about 91,000 in revenue. And then we charged about 86,000 in expense. So last year we actually had a net income of about $5,000. And currently, as of June, we're showing about 722,000 in our cash account for this fund. So that's cash, and we also have some dwelling structures, some property, about some land, construction in progress, a total of about $1.4 million. So we do have assets. We have a balance sheet, in the green for this fund, but operationally during the year, this year we received about 30-something thousand for our revenues and about 60,000 in expenses. Any other questions? Okay, lastly, we're looking at the central office. So you can see here the central office is showing about 66,000 in revenue and 677,000 in expenses. Again, these numbers are going to change at the end of the year because we allocate 100% of everything in the central office to the other programs. And so once we complete the year end, our CFCC is going to show a net zero with activity for the year. And that is it. The unaudited submission is due to HUD by the end of August. We have about 2 weeks of, they give us a 2-week grace period. So deadline really by September 15th, we should have the unaudited presented. And that is our presentation of our financials before our auditors come in to do their work. Any other questions?
Good. Thank you, Ms. Newman. Appreciate it.
Okay, you are so welcome.
I'm sorry, Dr. Johnson. Did you have any questions? I know you came in on the financial report.
There are no questions.
All right.
I have no questions. Thank you, Ms. Newman.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night, Ms. Newman. Appreciate it.
All right, you too. Good night.
Now we move to what I've been looking forward to. Item C, overview of the HUD assessment. Mr. Chris Basin, talk to us.
Good evening, everyone. This comes from the Public Housing Assessment System Score Report for the year 2024. I'll jump to the end. As we were doing the exit assessment, Mr. Williams asked the head supervisor, how could we do 26? How could we go through an assessment of the score for 24 when we're at 27 now, 26 now? And he said candidly, we're behind. And that's something that we're working on, and that's just something that you all have to live with, but hopefully we can get on to 25 and then catch back up to 26. So this is for the fiscal year that started on...
HUD is back.
That is correct. They had a reduction in staff of almost 50% of personnel, retirement, the retiree buyouts, et cetera, all of that last year in the fall. So from July the 1st of 2023 to June 30th of 2024 is the assessment period. There are three areas that the assessment focuses on, which is the physical, the financial, and the management. So for the physical, you're looking at our inspection scores. And on this, we scored a net score of 24 out of 40. And that's because of the new standard of Inspire. When they've come in and they did the inspections of our amps, we scored just roughly right around the middle to low 60s out of 100. And two of our steps to improve our physical score is we brought in the team from Southeast Georgia that has, for the last 20 years, received a 90 or above. Had them walk our properties, work with some of our maintenance crew. And the takeaway is that we're going to focus more on preventive maintenance. So we have a assessment of AMP2, an inspection of AMP2 that's coming up, hopefully in August, but before the end of September. And on this one, we're aiming to try and get an 80. One of the other things where they found that we can improve is holding the actual tenants accountable to taking care of the units itself, exterior and interior. Exterior for purposes of trash, keeping things around the front and the back of the unit doors. And this area kind of moves into the management. But for the physical, we have what we're doing currently is we're using contractors to punch our units, which is to turn the units once a resident leaves and prepare for a new resident, so that our maintenance team of 6 can focus on preventive maintenance ahead of the inspection. The other goal is between September and December to go ahead and bring on at least 3 more maintenance men. It's going to give us a total of 9. We would max out at 12, but we believe that with 9 individuals, we can actually get back to being able to punch, provide preventive maintenance, and continue to do 80s and above on our inspection stores.
Before you move forward, what's the plan on holding residents accountable for maintaining the residents and keeping it nice?
We want to put together a new housekeeping policy. We're going to publish it for 30 days. We'll have comments from residents at the resident council meetings and other forums. We'll bring it to the board as a draft. We'll talk about what the changes are, why we're making these changes. And then at that point, we would hope to have it approved and implemented.
Because this will be policy changes, right?
Yes. And just one of the examples would be right now for housekeeping, if a unit is identified as not being kept or with infestation, and a conference is set up. Whereas a lot of the other housekeeping policies, the instance that's identified, that's your first notice. So you have a conference, you're on notice that you're on housekeeping, and you'll have one more opportunity to be able to rectify that issue within a 3-week to a 4-week period. Whereas what we do is we identify something currently, we set up a conference, and then we go with 1 inspection, we go with a 2nd inspection, and then we go with a 3rd inspection. Whereas that's really not necessary. Like, if you know, you know. If you don't know, again, we can actually bring someone in who can work with you to help you, provide you with that support. But dragging it out to have 3 different inspections after the initial identification of your unit as being substandard, it draws out the process. So that would be one of the things we want to try and rectify and make it more efficient. The second area is under finance. And this is the area where we lost the most points. And it was because our 2024 audit, it wasn't submitted by May 31st of 25. It was, the end of the year, December 25. And so what we've done for that ahead of time is the 25 audit was actually submitted 3 days ahead of the deadline this year in 2026. We had a call with our auditor last week to notify them that they're going to give us the link after Labor Day to start submitting our documents, and then they're going to come in-house and do our in-house audit the first week of October. That's going to allow us to be able to get our audit submitted for the end of the year. So we're going from 9 months to 6 months. That's the plan that we're on right now. The last area is management. And so here was one of the key areas. I believe that in the exit assessment where there was a lot of conversation. And so I think you all are aware that we send staff to the various trainings in Savannah and in Jekyll. And so the feedback from HUD was these trainings are good, but they're not directly related to day-to-day operations. They're not specific to job performance and knowledge of how to actually do your job better. And so they identify courses that we can actually send staff to that would go to what they do on a day-to-day basis as a way to improve that. One of their other concerns was our write-off process, how we go about the write-offs. What policies and procedures do we have in place that would encourage us to be able to have a higher rent collection versus trying to write debt off? And then are we doing it consistently at AMP1, AMP2, AMP3, or is AMP1 doing it different from AMP3? And so the policy that we have in place, they want to ensure if it's not, they use this word a lot, robust enough, then at least make sure what you do have, that you are being consistent as you follow it. They made a comment about our organizational structure. They pointed out how in 2022, the organizational chart was very small, and then it ballooned so that in 24, it had a lot of lines and a lot of different titles and positions, though they were not all filled. And one of the things that we all did as you all did as a board is we redid an org chart for 25. And they said that was an improvement, but they think that that's still not strong enough. And so we should take another look at how we operate.
What do you mean by that?
They feel that we have people in positions that are not performing at the highest level. And so they said, we're working on your organizational chart, and Ms. Reed and I have been talking about this over the past week, of potentially putting together that draft and bringing it back to the board of the recommendations we have to get board approval to update our organizational chart. Did the training for procurement. They wanted to know how we did the process, and so I advised that the bulk of our procurement goes through maintenance, Mr. Williams. However, we do use Ms. Curry, we use Mr. Skipper, we use Ms. Douglas, and we use Amber Smith to also do the RFPs as well as order certain things for their department. And HUD didn't believe that this was the best idea for us versus us having a team effort, which I kind of lean towards. They figured we should really have one procurement person to be able to take care of all of our procurement. And you have that on our org chart, so this is one of the things that we will work to go ahead and get that spot filled. They emphasize this at the beginning, the opening assessment, at the closing, that this is basically a focus on recovery, and it's a look back at 2023, 24. They reiterated that where we are with our occupancy now, where we are with our pick errors, where we are with our audit, are all areas that they see that we're moving in the right direction. And then the closing remarks is that we will get the official recommendations anywhere within 30 to 60 days, which could come at the earliest by the middle of August, or at the latest by the middle of September. The next steps will not be from the leader of this assessment, who came from the South Carolina HUD office, but from our portfolio specialist, Susan Brooke. And we will identify corrective actions, and then we will report on these corrective actions monthly. And when we have the 25 assessment, we should have it. We will have the ability to double our score, which will show that we're already moving in the right direction. And based on the metrics that we're using now, if we were doing the 25, we would have double what we scored in 20.
So they'll send us a full report.
Yes. And then the last thing is that this is a 2-year recovery process. We do have the ability to come out of it earlier, where we wouldn't be troubled. However, we would still have to do the reporting for the full 2 years, rather we're in that status. They encourage us to ensure that we go ahead and get a physical need assessment on the property, so that we can consider rather RAD as something we're going to use going forward. One of the challenges with the inspections, going back to the physical, is the fact that our buildings are really old. And at some point we need to start pivoting, like a lot of the other housing authorities, and moving to more modern housing, low income. And that was basically a summary of the what they call the exit assessment.
Who was in charge, you said? Wasn't it's Brooks?
No, the young man's name was Zachary Woodard, and he came from South Carolina.
I didn't see him.
He was sitting over in the corner with the laptop.
Oh, he left. Yeah, but he left out during the session that I was in. I mean, he came. I saw him, but he left.
He may have gone to do some interviews. He wasn't assigned to do the interviews with the commissioners.
Yeah, who was the gentleman name that interviewed us?
Martine Hudson.
That's right.
He's the director of the office in Atlanta, the HUD office. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
What was the general feel from you, Mr. Basin?
It was a reminder. I had forgotten, honestly, when I got here at the end of 23, start of 24, what just the day-to-day challenges were, and the conversations of operations kind of reminded me. And so, though I didn't feel good about the overall assessment as far as what our areas of weakness and where we can improve, but it did give me it gave me a sense of hope, because we truly have come from being disorganized and kind of all over the place to actually starting to provide structure. And so I don't think about it because it's been a while ago, but this was a reminder. And again, some of the conversations that I've had with you all as a board about making sure we have policies in places, making sure that we're following the policies, making sure that we're updating the policies. This was just verification of what the conversations I've had with you all in the areas that you wanted me to go in.
All right.
what are we supposed to do with this? I mean, it's 3 years old. Thanks.
You know, Barbara Newman, she was on the exit assessment, and she brought up a very good point about our policy. She said, you know, if you all see this as an area that you want to see a quick turnaround, why don't you all provide us the financing so we can go to the consultants and get the policies put in place immediately, so that the turnaround can be even quicker. And they had to agree that would be something that they could do. Where they would find the money, they didn't have an answer to. But it was a very good point. It seems like the way that Hub was really operating, and I'm looking at this from the outside, I can't say this for sure, but based on the income verification, based on ensuring that like we're no longer subsidizing residents who are not U.S. citizens, they've just become a lot stricter than they were 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. And so some of the requirements that, you know, we were not having to deal with on a day-to-day, year-to-year basis, we're actually having to deal with now. And so it's just become a little bit more micromanaged, for a better choice of word. And so we just have to be able to comply with all of their new requirements and ensure that all of the old requirements, we put policies in place that allow us to operate at a more efficient pace.
So are they going to come in next year and audit 25?
I'm going to say no, because we won't have a score that will allow them to come back to us to do an assessment. They only came because of the score, and we won't have that score again. So they won't.
You're saying our score would go up, so there would be no need for them to come back.
So based on our 25, 26 score, they wouldn't come back.
No.
This was based on 23, 24.
Yes.
Will they not look at 24, 25 and audit us based on that? We're just going to skip ahead to the next year.
No. If the audit had been submitted on May the 31st in 25, we probably would have gotten a 62 or 64.
What did we get? Come on, say it out loud for the people.
That low.
Did it start with a 5? Okay.
What was the score, Chris?
It was a 32nd. It was a 32nd.
Out of 100?
I made some of those in high school. We've all messed up.
Yeah.
So that is what got them
Yes.
on campus.
Yes.
Can we?
Which is why it's easy to double it,
Right.
because at a minimum we'll probably do 70 to 70.
And what is, for not only my benefit, but for everyone's that's watching and listening, an acceptable score is what?
75 and above.
Okay. So we don't need to have a 90 or a 95 to be fully functioning.
But that's what we're trying to get to.
Yes.
Correct.
So what's the score for a high functioning? 75 would be standard.
Yes. High performing would be 90.
What was the group that came in and assisted us?
High performing.
What's their score, you know?
I don't know their actual score. I know they're high performing housing.
Okay.
Can not to let the fox in the hen house, but can we invite them back to audit us again? I'm not saying we want to do it this year, but you know, to me, that is a garbage analysis because we were coming out of a lot of bad stuff. You were new, maybe not even here the whole year. So it doesn't really tell me anything. I think it is important that we know for ourselves, for the board, for residents, stakeholders, you guys. We know that we are in that passing area or close to it. And I'm not suggesting that we invite them back immediately, but
To your point, I think, why didn't they choose the 24, 25? Why did they choose 23, 24? Because of the score?
No, because that's how far they are behind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were supposed to go.
Oh, okay.
And they stopped attending trainings in 25 because their travel budget was cut. And I think it's even been amended. So even with the score we have now, because the hit came from the audit, if that's where we perform weak from this point going forward, they wouldn't come and do an assessment for that.
Sound like they need an assessment. we won't get into that.
I nominate you as the chair of that.
Oh, they don't want.
Mr. Johnson, would you like to chime in any thoughts or questions concerning the assessment?
I had nothing to chime in with. I was clear when I attended a portion of the meeting when it was given. So there's no feedback from me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. There's nothing else to discuss concerning the overview. We thank you for it, and thanks to all the staff on what you all have done and continue to do, and we hope that you all can grow from this moment and can ensure that we are providing what HUD is asking us to do, as well as just for our organization as well as the residents. All right, I'll ask for a motion for executive session for real estate and personnel.
I move that we enter executive session for the purposes of real estate and personnel.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All that's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.